Hello, 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 author Denise Hollingsworth. And I know in my last video, I said something about who I'd be interviewing, but I can't control everyone's schedule, but I'm glad to see you today for sure. And instead of talking about my friend in foster care that was in foster care, we're instead going to be talking about mentors. I have someone that I've known forever. She was in the farmer industry, and she wants to talk to us about mentoring. And, I just like it when people reach out to me and say, hey, I think I got something that your community would love to hear about. It's something of great value. So we have Nina Grier today, and I'm going to put her up on the screen. And she's got something really great for you, but you got to stay on to the very end to really hear her little announcement. She's going to talk about something special. So hang in there. This should be another great interview, and I need your feedback. Also, remember to subscribe. So let me go find Nina. She is around here somewhere. Here she is. Bam!
Hi, Denise. You're magical.
Right. So this is Nina Grier, and I have known her for quite a few years, and she made a really dynamic entry into the pharma world, the world of pharmaceuticals. And I know you're probably thinking, what? Pharmaceuticals? Not that kind, but the kind where, it's all FDA approved, right? So Nina, we need to, before we get to specifics around mentorship, I need to get out there a little bit about your background. Like, why were you looking for mentors when you were really young? Like, how did that even become important to you? Tell me a little bit about how you got started in life.
Right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Denise, for having me on. I hope that what I can share will be helpful to anyone, someone, maybe everybody. But just to kind of go back, when I think about how precocious I was as a little girl, I was quiet, but in my mind, I was constantly observing and thinking, looking to find, to understand, who would be my role models, who would help me most to be motivated to keep moving on. Yeah. And what I would say is that the men came out. The men came up to be the one who I perceived at the time to be most proactive. Though there is an asterisk. There were women who were doing things, but their stories were never told. So I had that in the back of my mind. But when I was thinking about the businesses that the men in the family were going after and how independent they were, I said to myself, I'm not seeing a whole lot of women going out for their gusto and trying to capture their stars. I wasn't hearing it.
Yeah.
So I navigated to the men, my father, my uncles, my great uncles, and cousins. And it kind of like already kind of sparked something in me that was already festering. I knew I wanted to do something with my life. I didn't know what. But again, I was precocious, so I had all these ideas.
Right. Oh, I love a good precocious kid. Oh, sorry I missed you in those days. But anyway, so you were saying you gravitated toward the men and sort of maybe mimicking some of what you saw there. And I suppose that the women in your life, maybe they perhaps were homemakers or just doing things that you just simply weren't interested in. Is that right?
Yes. Again, there was success amongst the women, of course, in respect. And I put an asterisk beside that because, there were women who were single women who had families, but who bought their own homes. That was a big deal. Big deal, Yeah. They owned their own homes. And then there was like my mother who was raising 4 kids by herself. And, she was just trying to keep things moving.
Of course.
Things happened. But I paid attention to how she kept ledgers, how she managed her business and paid her bills, and how she wanted all 4 of her children to be, to go to college and get some kind of training.
Right.
So the women, the women were good in their own right or successful in their own right, not to minimize that. But I saw the men reaching outside into the business world, into the world of accounting or the legal world, or maybe a VP of an organization, business development. I saw that as being outside efforts.
Right.
Home efforts.
I suppose at that time in your life, maybe you were a little younger and you may not have understood that there were things in society that may have limited the opportunities of some of those women. Did you understand that dynamic?
I did not. I mean, again, I was in my mind thinking and processing, but I was not really that in tune to the limitations of African American women or women in general during the 60s. And I'm a little in the 60s, that's,
That's okay. Listen, the last woman that I interviewed, she just put her age right out there. And if you want to do it, go ahead at it. But I won't be joining you. Okay.
I'll just say that 60s. I was born in the 60s.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah. I love it.
The women were trying to find their place in society in terms of working and things of that nature. But they were also rearing children. So that's the piece that I was speaking to in terms of the women in my family.
Okay. All right. So now we're in college, and you, I suppose, looked for a mentor. Did you look for a mentor in college?
I always thought it made sense. And, to find people who could help you along the way. Because I said to myself, I don't know, but I figured if I find somebody who is friendly and approachable, then maybe they would give me a few tidbits. I found a mentor in the HR department who was quite to me. She says, Nina, maybe the challenges that you're having in corporate America, because I come from a family of where my father had his own business. So I didn't grow up with the corporate strategies and how to navigate them and survive the corporate world. I had to learn them, pretty much through life.
Right. Hold on a minute, Nina. I was asking you, though, about college. So did you not have any mentors through that college experience?
No. In college, I used them. It was still the men in my family who kind of energy.
But do you, like for me, for example, I had a dean at the university, and I would rely heavily on that dean when I was working out my scheduling, because I didn't come from a family where there were, people that had gone on the educational journey that I took. So I couldn't exactly call home and get advice. So I really relied on the deans. So maybe they would fall in that mentor category, not sure, but they definitely guided me. So I was wondering if you did anything like that.
I can say I was so fixated and so independent, probably to a degree that I shouldn't have been. I did everything on my own. I did not reach back to the men in the family who were doing well for advice with respect to school or traversing the career track. I just saw them as a way of catapulting myself into the mode of moving forward. So I should have reached out to a dean, but I didn't. I worked and I ran my own schedule, my own path. It was all me. It was very independent.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. So now we're out of college and we're starting this work thing. How did you decide on going into the pharmaceutical industry? Honestly, I didn't even know that was a thing. When I got out of college, I'd never even heard of that. So who directed you that way?
Well, it's interesting because this was the Reagan era when I started into the pharmaceutical industry. And it was at the end of the Reagan era, I would say. And I was first working in selling advertising display space. And I felt like that wasn't a good time because discretionary funds for the small companies were just going up, Then I started in the OTC business and I felt like I was working far too hard. It was just so tough and I wasn't making the money. And then a best friend of mine told me about the pharmaceutical industry and she pretty much gave me the mindset to go forward and try. And I was able to get a position.
Oh, okay. All right, good. So you start along this new journey then in an industry you weren't familiar with. Surely then you must have said, listen, I need to seek out someone who can give me advice, give me guidance. Was it around then that you actually became aggressive with finding a mentor?
Yeah, I did. I said to myself, what's the landscape around here? How do I navigate the landmines? And I looked to my district manager at the time. I looked to some of my customers who I thought were, familiar with the industry.
Yeah.
Then I looked for upper management within the organization. So I sought out people who were friendly and who were nice.
Right.
Didn't mind. I mean, I was non-threatening. So I was very humble, and I would just, ask it, could you help me understand a perspective? What should I do to get to the next level?
Okay. All right. So would you say being non-threatening and humble is a requirement for approaching someone about being a mentor?
There's no one size fits all. So I wouldn't say a requirement, but I would say that you want to diffuse any type of pushback potentially. So my approach was to be humble and friendly, and when you start out, from, ground zero, so to speak, with, just getting out of college, you don't have a whole lot of background, no matter how many internships you may have done. So, I always went forward with a very humble perspective. I wanted to learn from them. That was massaging their ego. That was letting them know that I respected their perspective and all the things that they had gone through. So that was my.
Okay. All right. So I think you're on to something a little bit there when you say massaging the ego, because we all like that, right? I'm not being judgmental. We all like that. And even being approached to be a mentor it's flattering. That means that someone respects you enough, respects your judgment enough that they want to work closely with you. Now, did you ever have anyone push you away and say, I don't have time?
Maybe I was good at picking them because I didn't get that.
Okay, excellent.
I'm very sensitive to communications with people and the E quotient, emotional qualities. And I didn't have that because I was very careful because I didn't want my ego hurt.
Right. Okay, now you've thrown out a fancy term here, emotional qualities. I was very astute at emotional qualities, so I knew who to approach. So you're going to have to break that down for us.
Right. So it's your emotional intelligence. So your sensibilities around personalities and how people, how you come off to people and how people come off to you. Are they negative? Are they positive? Are they aware of the surroundings that they're in? Are they sensitive to the people that they're talking to? And what they're saying and what they're doing. So, it's like friendly, observant, nice. You don't just say what's in your head. You just think about it. You know your audience, public speaking, know your audience. And the emotional intelligence is really about that. It's like really having filters such that they're not threatening.
Are you able, I hate to put you on the spot, but are you, and you can say pass, are you able to give a specific example, like a real life example of an assessment you did around emotional intelligence? Now, it may not have had anything to do with a mentor. That's okay.
I would say an assessment would be that my observing someone who is disparaging another person just before they go on to do a presentation. So that person who made some negative comment about the presenter is completely inappropriate in terms of the morale that presenter needed. So to say something that was disparaging, that's not nice, or that would second guess that person, means that person who's asking those disparaging questions is just not aware of the impact of that question to the person who's going to be on stage presenting to hundreds of people.
Right.
So why do that? That's not nice. That is not helpful.
No.
So that person who did that was low EQ.
Yeah, okay, low EQ. All right, well, I can tell you that I'm going to work on my EQ and I'm going to start using that term. I may even approach someone and say, so what is your EQ?
Not everybody knows it though.
I know, but hey, that'll make me feel really smart, you know.
Really smart.
Okay. Well, forget that part then. All right. So now you're seeking out, you're in the pharmaceutical industry. Did you have a number of mentors sort of based on where you were in your professional journey there?
So I was a person, I was a person who reached out to people who I thought were successful, but I also surrounded myself with people who were as ambitious as I. So my father always said, you always want to be around people you can learn from. And
yes.
My guiding posts,
yeah.
So yes, I would seek out my manager that I was reporting to. I would seek out, so that was career tracking, VP of the department that I was reporting to. So that was, again, career path, looking for some suggestions and guidance and what should I do in terms of additional training to move
right.
Then there's also HR, a person who was running the HR department. I kind of like, she became a mentor for me, and in some of the difficult situations that I might have had politically, just managing the landmines in a corporation, she once told me, Nina, people do these things to you because you let them.
I like that.
If you don't let them, they will continue to do it.
Can you give us an example? Because we like juicy stuff. This makes it real for us. If you can give us an example, because people are really dealing with a lot of the same issues. This is not, most things aren't really new, right? Just new faces. Just new faces.
That's true. One example. There are several, but I'll use one. There was a person who I was leading an initiative, and that person just wanted to swoop in and just minimize my efforts and try to silence me, so that I could back off, which meant backing up my responsibilities, which is not what I was going to do. No. And that person kind of like take the lead. And I said to myself, why would he want to do that? And I talked to my mentor in HR, and she says, they do that because you're giving off some kind of, energy that suggests that you can get away with it.
What?
And so instead of like, crying back to my HR, mentor, she was like, you need to talk to that person in a very diplomatic way, so, and you need to stand up for yourself, not in an aggressive way, but in a way that is clear with transparency of this is not appropriate. This is not what you should do. And I can't accept that.
Right.
I learned the hard way.
Well, and I bet you that was a lesson that you never forgot because you learned it the hard way. Right?
Well, it's something you got to keep working on because I'm not in a very aggressive personality. I can say a lot behind the screen, but in someone's face, I'm not trying to be that aggressive. But it was a behavior change on my part, which when you're dealing with behaviors, it takes time. So I just kept trying to work on it.
So tell us how you worked on it, because we're getting some comments here, and people are sending me messages saying, hey, that's hard for me because I am not accustomed to going to someone and confronting them. I don't know how to do it. I feel too insecure. So did you take baby steps to do that?
So I did take baby steps to do that. And I wanted to, when speaking to this particular person, I wanted to be in a non-threatening situation. So sometimes, whether it's coffee or just asking them to come to lunch or just stopping them, when they're maybe taking a break and just asking, can I have a couple of minutes of your time? I didn't always do it in their office because I felt like that was like a cage that benefited them. So I wanted to diffuse any kind of pushback. And I just wanted to make sure that they realized just how I felt. It's not about it's about how I felt. And I'm certain he didn't, you code it in such a way that it's non-threatening. I'm certain that you didn't think this is what you were, how I would feel, but this is how I'm feeling. And I, just letting them know I appreciate their support, but this is what I have a responsibility to do, which is what I'm charged to do. And it sometimes works, and sometimes you just back off and you just give some time before you go back to that conversation. So you kind of use your emotional intelligence around that, just knowing the best time to approach the situation. It's immediate, knock it out out the park. And sometimes it's like, okay, let them sizzle down a bit. Maybe the next day I'll do that. Or maybe I need to sizzle down. So the next day I do.
And did you ever have to go back to the same person again and say, hey, I know we've talked about this already, but maybe I need to clarify a few things?
Yeah, in another situation, I did speak with the person, and they said it wasn't their intention. This is a different scenario, and it wasn't their intention, and it was more of they were being naive. So actually, I was able to build a better relationship with that person. So it depends on the person too, how receptive.
Right. So it's a slow process, but definitely you conferred with a mentor. The mentor said, this is how you might want to handle this. And then the little details were left up to you, and you figured it out.
Yeah, there's no hand holding, because life is not about hand holding in the corporate world. So I can only speak to my experience.
Now, did you have any mentors outside of the corporate environment? Mentors at church, mentors in any sort of community work that you did?
I spent a lot of time working.
Okay.
My pastimes were about being crafty and making things for people.
Well, it's funny, you're touching on this. Crafty and making things for people. I did say that you were retired. And retirement for some people is just kind of kicking back and going fishing. But I think you became an entrepreneur. Tell us a little bit about that.
So actually, after my nearly did I say 30? I didn't mean 30 years, but some number of years.
10 years. 10 years.
10 years in my corporate world, I decided that I was going to really seek out my passion, which was to create a company that I could in some way make a difference. And I don't have children, but I have gorgeous goddaughters and nieces and wonderful nieces and nephews and all that. So I have all of them. But I wanted to see how I can leave something behind personally. And so I decided that there's not enough imagery, positive, progressive imageries of diverse people, diverse people. So I started my company in 2014 after leaving corporate America. It's called Historical Dream. No S. Historical Dream. Everybody should have one. And my label is Image of a Progressive Society. So it didn't really matter whether you were Asian American, Latin American, of course, African American. Where are the icons that represent the positive images of all the forefathers and foremothers who came before us, who paved the way for us? And why aren't we seeing imagery around that positive, those positive icons everywhere, anywhere, all kinds of places? Yes. For myself to start a company, Historical Dream, where I would do that. So I'll do jewelry. This is Miss Harriet Tubman.
Lovely. And is that plastic? What is that? What is it made out of?
This is sterling silver, pretty heavy.
Oh, so sorry.
And I made it. I designed it. I do it all. And then this is Miss Phyllis Wheatley, the poet.
Oh, wow.
Author.
Now, so we won't get that in the bubblegum machine?
I'm sorry.
No.
We'll not get that in the bubblegum machine, but that is a good idea. Get some plastic ones out there. It's all about translating the history and bringing it from the back and pushing it forward. So children today and their children tomorrow will know about Phyllis Wheatley. They'll know about Cato, philanthropist and educator in Philadelphia, and there's so many people.
What is your did you already say your website address?
Well, historicaldream.com.
Okay, no S though, right?
No S.
Excellent. Now, what if I have a picture, an image of my grandmother? Can you do something with that?
Absolutely. We do custom medallion images as well. So you give me a photo and we work magic, and you can have a medallion like this with your family on it. Sterling silver or brass or gold, whatever you like.
Oh, I love it. Did you have a mentor to help you become an entrepreneur?
Remember, my father was an entrepreneur.
Okay.
He had his own business, and that's how he made his living.
Okay.
And I was too chicken to do it in the early part of my youth,
Yeah.
being an adult. So I just knew that I was going to do something at some point, and lo and behold, it was 2014, and I said, I'm just doing it.
I love it. I love it. So, Nina, we thank you for your time. Absolutely. And we are going to send you off to go do some other really creative things. And I'm going to wrap up with a few words.
I want to mention something. I am currently working on a piece with Malcolm X.
Oh, wow. Ooh.
So
you drew that?
I did. It's not finished. So I'm making a T-shirt. And it will say, "Get your knees off our necks."
Oh, go ahead, girl. And that will be on your website.
It will be in the next 3 weeks.
Okay, in the next 3 weeks or so.
Watch out.
Okay.
Instagram, Historical Dream, and Facebook, Historical Dream, and historicaldream@outlook.com if you want to talk to me.
Okay, Nina, thank you so much. And I'm sure I'm going to get some comments, and people may want you back to talk about how to become an entrepreneur, because that's on the hearts and minds of many people.
It's all that glitters is not gold, is what I'll say.
Yeah. Oh, girl, please. All right.
Thank you.
Chat with you later. Listen, I want to wrap up with just saying just a few words. And first of all, wasn't she great? Just talking about mentorship in various contexts. We love her. And I'm going to continue to interview people, but in between, I'll be saying things. Having a mentor is so helpful. And I can tell you that I didn't always seek out a mentor. I didn't know that that was important. I was always accustomed to being so independent. I grew up in a home where independence was everything. You were just on your own, making it happen. And so unfortunately, I had this false sense of security that I knew so much and I could do everything without anyone's help. I relied on guidance counselors, deans, here and there. I definitely got support within the institutions where I studied, but in terms of my career, I did not know the importance of networking and mentoring. And it really was against my nature, my private nature, to reach out. And I think in some ways I suffered for that. So now it's something that I preach to everyone. Seek out people you can trust. I had a trust issue, right? Seek out people you can trust. Assess them and say, is this someone that has something of value to give me? Is this someone who won't repeat everything that I say to them? Is this someone who's respected within this organization? Is this someone with a kind heart that wants to serve, that really wants to help people that are coming up behind them? So you have to determine that on your own, but understand that having a mentor is so important. So keep that in mind as you go forward. So subscribe to my YouTube channel, please. This video will be uploaded eventually. I have to edit it a little bit, but you are everything. Please leave a comment. Let me know what other topics you're interested in. I'm working on content all the time, so it'll get fancier and fancier, but for right now, this is what you get. So subscribe to author Denise Hollingsworth on YouTube and follow me on social media. Until next time.